Did you ever hear about Martinez when we went to El Paso?
Something recent?
This is a couple of years back. Guys got cut loose. We all end up back at the hotel. Martinez is drunk out of his mind, and he starts yelling, "The floor is lava."
Already sounds bad.
Yeah. And then he decides he has to cross the entire hotel lobby without touching the ground.
No.
Bro, he jumps straight onto a glass coffee table.
Damn.
Yeah. Thing explodes. It's loud as hell. Whole lobby goes silent. So he stands up bleeding. First sergeant, he looks at the first sergeant and goes, "Am I still good for PT tomorrow?"
Of course.
First sergeant just stared at him and said, "Outstanding. Now we owe Marriott a table." You hear that?
Yeah.
Coyote?
Hell no. Not like one I've ever heard.
Oh, man, I don't like that. This first story was submitted to the Tales from the Grid Square Project. In it, a U.S. soldier working along the border had a run-in with what most believe is only a folktale. A spirit feared throughout Central and South America, one that goes by the name La Llorona. He writes, "So I've done a lot of CQ, charge of quarters, shifts during my time in the military. If you spend enough time walking around these old, empty buildings, you're bound to experience some odd things that you can't really explain. But honestly, you kind of get used to it. You need to, for the sake of your own sanity. But sometimes you'll see or hear things that are just too hard to ignore. The U.S.-Mexico border harbors a lot of these things. This is my story." When you think of the U.S.-Mexico border, you probably picture these massive walls or fences that go on for miles, but that's not really the case. Only certain sections of the border are actually walled off. Most of it is actually too remote, or the terrain is too difficult to construct any sort of physical barrier. So in place of a wall, you have guys like us hanging out in LPOPs, listening posts, observation posts, just keeping an eye on parts of the border for any migrants or sketchy activity. That was me and my partner on this night, sitting in a truck overlooking a large portion of open land and distant mountains near the Rio Grande. It was a remarkably normal and boring night. That is, until we heard this long, drawn-out wail. Now, I grew up in the South. I know what coyotes and bobcats sound like. That wasn't what we were hearing. We turned down the radio and even turned the truck windows away from the wind to listen as clearly as possible. A few minutes later, we heard the same scream again, echoing from somewhere out in the desert. Man, how do I even describe it? Imagine a person who's lost everything. Someone who's experienced more pain and suffering than anyone could comprehend, just unleashing all that raw anguish in a single scream into the mountains. That's what it sounded like. God, I've actually got chills just thinking about it now. My buddy and I have since been reassigned to a different LPOP, but I really don't envy whoever had to take our spot. To the uninitiated, they would probably assume that these screams came from some kind of large cat or wild dogs. But there are more than a few legends out here along the border, especially near the Rio Grande. There's a huge Hispanic community in this neck of the woods. To them, these myths, especially those of La Llorona, are more than just folktales. They're taken very, very seriously. For me, those screams were genuinely terrifying. Everything about them, from the raw emotion to the way they carried on the wind, just felt unnatural. Whoever or whatever was out there that night, I just hope it manages to find peace. I was in a Bible study recently, and as a class, we were discussing biblical truths from things we were told to believe, maybe as kids, but that didn't actually hold up in Scripture once you read it. You know, stuff people tell you to believe, or things that you saw in movies, or just things that you thought were true, like Eve eating an apple, for instance, right? Like, it doesn't say that she ate any specific kind of fruit, so people often speculate on what she ate. So things like that, things that you eventually start to question because it's just not in the book. So people in the class could have shared about something that they were told was in the Bible, or anything relating to faith, religion, spirits, that kind of thing. And I'm expecting people to say things like, I didn't know that Eve didn't actually eat an apple. I used to think heaven was full of people with wings and harps sitting on clouds, that sort of thing. But the first thing this young woman says when she stands up is, La Llorona. I remember sort of half paying attention. I was taking notes, and then my ears perked up, hearing La Llorona in a Bible study. It's one of the only times I've personally heard someone mention it in that context, like, hey, yes, as a kid, I was told by my family or something, and fully believed in the existence of this spirit that would drag me into a river if I went out at night. That context. Honestly, I think even from a biblical view, La Llorona could be just as real as any other spiritual encounter. Demons are in the Bible, and clearly some spirits have nothing better to do than just scare the living daylights out of people. Legion, as one example, for those who have read the book. Now, La Llorona is no stranger to this show. We've covered her before in detail, both the folklore surrounding her and encounters shared by other servicemen who swear they saw or heard something they still can't explain. The story of La Llorona reaches back centuries, with some tracing versions of it to the time of the Aztec Empire. Most people today know her as the spirit of a grieving woman who, after being betrayed by the man she loved, drowned their children in a fit of insanity. And now, according to the legend, she wanders rivers, canals, and waterways throughout Latin America, crying out for the children she killed, and sometimes trying to take other children in their place. So, hearing screams in the desert, in the dead of night, not far from a river like the Rio Grande, yeah, I can see why that story came to mind. The first time I heard coyotes yipping in the desert, my first thought was that it was a bunch of children. And I'm thinking, why are they out this late? What on earth are they doing? But now, having a practiced ear for it, it's a very haunting sound, but if I ever hear coyotes again, or a bobcat call for that matter, I would immediately know what it was. So since this soldier grew up or lived, he said, in the South in a desert or otherwise area with bobcats and coyotes, I have to take his ability to distinguish an animal from what he described as a human voice, raw emotion, that kind of thing. I kind of have to take that seriously. And ultimately, I don't know which possibility is worse, that these men were listening to something spiritual, experiencing the reality of something that people have feared for generations, or that somewhere out there in the dark, a very real woman was screaming for help. And because of the legend, no one went looking for her.
Affirmative, she's still moving northbound toward your road. Slow pace, looks like a lone female.
Anyone else with her?
Negative. No other heat signatures in the area.
Copy. Could've got separated.
Maybe. She's within 50 yards now. No visible weapon, but stay sharp.
10-4. We have eyes.
20 yards. She's coming right to you.
Stand by. Ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Now. Border Patrol, stop right there.
Bravo 3, subject turned southbound. She's running.
Damn, she's fast.
No way.
CP, we lost her. Tell me you just saw that. She run away on all fours? On her hands?
Yeah. I don't know what the hell I just saw, but yeah, I saw it.
Roger, we're heading back to the Vic.
This next story was shared by a veteran of the U.S. Army who now serves as a Border Patrol agent. In it, he tells a story that was originally told to him by some of the more senior agents in his unit. Honestly, nobody knows what these guys encountered, but it comes across as eerily similar to another entity that is often reported in desert or forested areas, one that the indigenous people of Arizona or New Mexico might identify as a skinwalker. He writes, "So I'm a patrol agent and prior military. The more senior guys at my station all tell this story from when we first had the big camera towers installed along the river. For the time, these things were pretty advanced. They could pan around 360 degrees, zoom in, toggle between IR and daytime cameras, all that jazz. And of course, they're recording 24/7, 365. Well, one night, the camera operator back at the station picked up a signal heat signature in the desert. When they zoomed in, it looked to be that of a woman coming up from the levee, just wandering across some plowed sugarcane fields towards the end of a cul-de-sac, which was under construction at the time. The station notified 2 nearby agents of the intrusion. The guys drove over, parked their units just north on the road, and walked down the road to take up positions behind some Jersey barriers. From there, they waited for her to get closer. Back at the station, the camera operator is tracking this woman's movement as she gets closer and closer to the agent's position. When she was just a few feet away from their hiding spot, they jump out and attempt to apprehend her. Well, she was having none of that. The woman immediately turned around and started running south with the agents in hot pursuit. But their chase was pretty short-lived. The woman easily outpaces these agents. Like, there's Olympic track star fast, and then there was this girl. And those agents weren't slouches. They were some pretty fit dudes. The camera pans and tracks her movement. Its operator is telling these 2 agents to hurry up and catch her. But according to the guys who told me this story, this is when things took a turn for the surreal. As this woman is sprinting back towards Mexico, the agents and IR camera operator watch as she drops down onto all fours before, as the senior agents have always told this story, galloping away from them in some crazy, super fast, athletic bear crawl motion. She scurries off into the desert like some kind of animal and leaves the agents in her dust. The seniors told me that after all of this went down, they wrote an SIR for it, a standard incident report. The whole thing hardly sounds standard, but I mean, what else were they supposed to do, right? After that, the DC, Deputy Commissioner, took all the DVD copies from the security camera footage that recorded that night's incident. And that was the end of it, at least according to the senior agents that told me all this. It's a pretty weird story, I know, and honestly, I didn't think much of it until I had a strange experience of my own. Flash forward many years, and now I'm the new agent. One morning, my FTO, field training officer, and I were out tracking a single female that had been seen on camera the night before. She was walking barefoot along some plowed fields. We picked up her trail, which is what you'd expect, normal walking footsteps. But as we followed it, it started going foot, and then hands started getting mixed in. Eventually, the footsteps stopped altogether, and we were only tracking handprints. Like, whoever this person was just doing a frickin' handstand walk through a field in the dead of night. I've been on the border for a little while now, and that is still the strangest thing I've seen. What time is it? Oh, 11:58. Yeah, we're doing a nap. Oh, gee, holy hell. Hello? Yeah, hello? Ugh. Yeah, what? Hello? You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, real funny. Do you need help? Hello? Hello? What the hell? That was my name. Nobody knows how to pronounce that shit. Who's in the bathroom? Hello? Empty. He's standing on the toilet. Hello? Hey, who's in here? What the hell? Hello? Is there somebody in here? Oh, screw this. So far, the Borderlands have given us a pretty solid lineup of strange encounters. We've covered La Llorona. We've had what sounded an awful lot like a skinwalker. And now, naturally, we arrive at the haunted military base. This next account was shared online by a Texas National Guardsman using the handle #ThrowAwayOLS Medic. The OLS stands for Operation Lone Star, the Texas border mission focused on disrupting human smuggling, drug trafficking, and supporting security efforts along the U.S.-Mexico border. At the center of that mission in Eagle Pass, Texas, sits Camp Charlie, the main forward operating base used by the Guard during the operation. And like a lot of temporary military installations, old bases, converted buildings, and places full of exhausted people working long nights under stress, Camp Charlie started to develop some stories of its own. Stories about screams in the dark, voices in empty rooms, and something moving around inside a building that should have been empty. He writes, "First off, I'm an Army medic. I've been off Operation Lone Star for about a year now, but I was on mission for close to 2. Back in Eagle Pass at the OG Camp Charlie, there were stories about guys hearing screams and seeing apparitions around that decrepit old building by the DFAC, the dining facility. When I first heard these stories, I'd usually just write them off as tall tales or hallucinations from fatigued Joes, but all that changed after I had my own experience. All of this went down in BAS, the Battle Aid Station, where the docs worked, the medics on Camp Charlie, which at the time was located in the arms room. This night, I was on my own, working the late shift. With this place having been a juvenile detention center way back when, I was always making jokes about how this place would have naturally evolved into a military camp. Things were pretty dead around midnight, so I decided I was going to kick back on one of the empty cots for a quick snooze. But just as I laid down, I hear a loud knock at the door. Now, this wasn't all that surprising. At the time, November-December 2021, the camp was experiencing a massive COVID outbreak. I figured this was just another platoon of Joes who needed to get tested. But when I opened the door, nobody was there. I walked out into the hall and peeked around the building, but it was empty and eerily quiet. Eventually, I gave up looking and just went back to the aid station, and just as I closed the main door behind me, I heard our back door, which led to the Bravo Tactical Operations Center at the TOC. I heard it slam shut with a good amount of force. So this startles me, and I run towards it, hoping to find the person who originally knocked on my door, or whoever just came into the station. And at this point, I'm kind of worried that somebody is pulling a fast one on me. They distracted me so they could then slip in the back door and steal something. So again, I searched the building, and again, there was nothing. At first, I was actually more annoyed than freaked out. And so I start making some notes on my notepad to back brief the morning crew for when they come to relieve me. And that's when I heard somebody call my name. Not doc or medic or even my last name, but my first name. Loud as hell and clear as day. And let me tell you, my first name is ethnic as hell and difficult for most guys to correctly pronounce off the bat. I turned towards where the sound's coming from, and I realized that this voice is coming from the aid station bathrooms. I put my pen and paper down and slowly walk over there. There were 2 separate washrooms, and there was no one in either of them. This chill goes down my spine, and I have a strong feeling of unease that just kind of washes over me. I'm staring out at the dark aid station, and I just couldn't help but feel like something was in there with me, just watching. I really couldn't make heads or tails of it. Whatever was going on, it was enough to make me want to leave the aid station, and I headed towards the Bravo TOC, to tell their staff duty guy about all this. He said that he had heard noises as well, but figured that it had just been a patient. According to him, nobody had been to the TOC and nobody had opened the doors. So after hearing that, I said screw it, and I spent the rest of the shift in the TOC until morning. In the days that followed, I did a bit of asking around, but I really wasn't able to get anything from anybody. It's not like anybody could tell me what was actually going on there. About a week later, I left Eagle Pass and never did follow up or find out anything about who or what was in that aid station that night calling my name.
Do you have to whistle?
What? I'm bored. Sue me.
God. Why?
Oh. You hear that?
Yeah.
Hi, Ace.
If it is, they're dumb as rocks.
Let's go see. This final account was posted online by a soldier who used the handle Pataquan. At the time, like the previous doc, he says that he was serving with Operation Lone Star, the Texas border mission. He also doesn't go into unit details or exact locations, which is understandable, but he does describe 2 strange experiences he had while working near Eagle Pass, Texas. The first involved shadows moving through a tree line. The second was something they heard in the desert that 4 grown men wanted absolutely nothing to do with. He writes, fellow Eagle Pass service member here as well. I obviously can't discuss areas of operation or any mission-specific details, but I've definitely had a few strange experiences while working the border. The first one happened to me and a buddy while we were out conducting a night patrol around 9 p.m. We were walking near this wooded area, and my buddy, who I guess was bored, started whistling a tune to entertain himself. As he's doing this, we hear what sounds like someone imitating his whistle coming from a nearby tree line. We immediately turn towards the trees and start scanning them with our night vision, and we can clearly see what look like shadows moving around. Our first thought is that these are IAs, illegal aliens. But if they were, why the hell would they want to attract our attention? You know, pretty sure the name of the game is to avoid detection at all costs. Either way, we start approaching this tree line, flashlights in hand, just in case our nods crapped out. But when we step into the tree line where these figures were moving just moments before, there's nothing. Sure, they could have made a run for it, but when we started looking around the area, what really weirded us out was that the ground in the area where the shadows had been moving, it was completely undisturbed. There were no tracks, no broken branches, garbage, or anything indicating that people had recently been there. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately at this point, we didn't have much time to investigate. Relief was incoming, so we had to drive back to the TOC to prepare for off-coming personnel. But as we were driving back along this small lake, or maybe it was a river, I swear I caught a glimpse of a woman standing by the water's edge, dressed in white. Like, think the creepy girl that crawled out of the well in the ring. This really freaked me out. Like, I'm of Hispanic origin, so let's just say that I'm no stranger to certain stories that our culture takes very seriously. Given what happened earlier that night, I gripped the wheel and just focused on the road ahead. I still got chills every time I had to drive past that location. And frankly, I can't help but think that what I'm going to say next, what happened a little later, is somehow connected to that woman that I saw. I'm telling you, that was absolutely a girl and a guy.
I mean, it might have been, but you don't know that.
Bro, who else is out here at midnight making sounds like that?
Coyotes?
Coyotes don't say, "Oh my God, that was totally someone banging out there."
I'm pretty sure my previous roommate was a furry. Maybe it was him.
Yeah, with a coyote.
Life, finds a way.
Oh.
What the hell?
Is that girl?
Okay.
Anybody gonna go check that out?
No. Lock the doors.
Well, all right then.
So, a couple of weeks later, I was posted up at a checkpoint of another OLS facility with 3 other soldiers. The night was pretty boring, the 4 of us just chilling in the Humvee, but we did end up overhearing the sounds of a woman, let's just say, having a pretty good time with her boyfriend or lover somewhere out in the desert. Fast forward to around 3 a.m., and the night starts to get windy. Sand was blowing all around the Humvee, which was pretty normal, being out in the desert and all. But then we started to hear what sounded like a woman weeping from far away. And as this wind is getting stronger, the sound of her crying is getting stronger, and it gets so loud that it actually starts to sound like she's in the Humvee with us, sobbing and screaming. And discernibly, the temperature in that vehicle dropped as the wind passed by us and the sounds of her weeping finally faded away. After the sound of this woman's crying kind of dissipated, we took a moment to look around from inside of what we thought was the safety of this Humvee, but we couldn't see anyone around us. But that didn't matter. We just secured the combat locks on the Humvee doors. None of us even tried to leave that vehicle until the sun came up a few hours later. Wartime Stories is created and hosted by me, Luke LaManna. Written by Jake Howard and myself. Audio editing, sound design, mixing, mastering, and production coordination by Alex Carpenter, with additional audio work by me. Animation and motion design by Hot Sauce Video. Research by Jake Howard and myself. Artwork by Pikata and Radomir Izgarovic. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around here for the after action and the credits. Sometimes I would share a personal story, sometimes I would share some comments. I don't have much else to say about these particular stories beyond what was said inside the episode. The last story involving a medic in the Marine Corps, the Navy. Marine Corps is a branch of the Navy. So our medics are called corpsmen. So they're Navy personnel that wear Marine Corps utility uniforms, and they are our medics. They have a BAS, a basic aid station, kind of like the guy said in the story. I have more to say about corpsmen. I have a deep appreciation. I even still keep in touch with some of the corpsmen that I knew, because even after I got out, there were always people I could reach out to for like medical advice, like, hey, this is going on, like, what can I do? One of my friends, Mike, he was the first corpsman that I interacted with after boot camp. And it's a very special memory because I got injured, sort of. But during our first field exercise, we, as a recon platoon, were sent out into the training area. We set up a hide site on the side of a ridge line, looking out over the rest of the battalion, who we were pretending was the enemy that we could observe and, do reporting on, pretend like they were the bad guys. Well, maybe this first or second, I think probably the second night, I had radio watch, and then I was going down for a couple hours on a sleep shift. We're on the side of a hill. I just laid down in the leaves, the sticks. I remember hearing something moving, like something moving, in the leaves and branches right next to my head. And I think I maybe turned. All of a sudden, this really sharp pain right above my right ear on the side of my head. And I immediately sat up, and it was just really painful. And I'm holding the side of my head, and I'm trying. What do you do, right, when you're in pain like that? And whatever this was like radiating out from the site where I felt like something pinch me or bite me. And it just felt like it was going into my skull. I was just like, I couldn't think. It was just so painful. My buddy Sean, I don't know what was so funny to him, but he starts laughing at me about maybe the noises I was making, because I was just like in a lot of pain. And I just started cursing at him, and I was just threatening him. And I was like, when we get back to base, I'm gonna break all of your stuff, because we shared a room together. Well, they couldn't do anything for me, and the pain was not going away. So they called up a corpsman, who then they drove him out, and took like maybe 15, 20 minutes of me suffering like that. And Mike was the one who came out. And this is where I first met Mike. And he gave me basically a double dose of Benadryl. That's the most he could do for me, and that just knocked me out. And I passed out, and I woke up the next day. Pain was, still like a bump on the side of my head from like an insect bite. Pretty sure it was a centipede, because you'd wake up with centipedes, and they loved warm places. You'd wake up and they'd be under your clothing, or